shock, apprehension and condemnation as the Adamawa State Resident Electoral Commissioner Hudu Ari threw caution to the wind and declared the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Aisha Binani, governor-elect, before the final results of the supplementary election held in the state had been collated. Rise News correspondent Mary Chinda, who is in Yola monitoring the election, reports.
No, porque it's about like
the APC the highest vote.
How?
Here, the hitherto peaceful Adamawa supplementary election takes a rather strange twist as the state resident electoral commissioner, usurping the powers of the returning officer and reading from a handwritten result on a plain sheet, goes ahead to announce the APC candidate as governor-elect, even when collation is incomplete. While Nigerians are still trying to make sense of the illegal declaration, the APC candidate, Binani, reads an acceptance speech to the surprise of all.
Today, Adamawa stands tall on the threshold of history. My dear Adamawa State citizens and residents, I am overwhelmed and humbled by your show of love and confidence in electing me to serve as your governor as from May 29 this year and for the next 4 years. For this, I say a very big thank you.
Her supporters also take to the streets. Election observers and People's Democratic Party agents promptly reject the declaration.
When I left, I was informed that we resume in the morning at 11 o'clock. And then this morning to find out that something had derailed that scheduled process at 9 o'clock was devastating, to say the least. The count was very transparent. It was going very, very well. I think that the last 10 local governments should be completed to finish off and get the true result of the election itself.
Moments later, the INEC headquarters, in a statement, suspend the collation. But the incumbent governor, Amadu Fintiri, is calling for calm as he's expressing optimism that INEC would do the needful.
This morning, we all woke up to an illegal announcement by merchants of anarchy headed by the resident electoral commissioner, Malanduhu Yunusa Ari, who since the beginning of this election is bent on pushing our collective patience to its limit. It is on record that we went to the polls for the first round of the election on the 18th of February 2023. Even when it was apparent that I was coasting home to victory, this same gang added the confusion and rendered the election inconclusive.
In a quick turn of events, the tempo here switches from being peaceful to becoming full of apprehension, fear, and anxiety, especially for electorates who do not know what would become of the suspension of this collation exercise as of this morning by INEC. From Yola, the state capital of Adamawa, Mary Chinda reporting for Rise News.
Well, the Independent National Electoral Commission has disowned the Adamawa State Resident Electoral Commissioner, Hudu Yunusa, for declaring All Progressives Congress candidate, Senator Aishatu Binani, as the winner of the supplementary governorship election. INEC National Commissioner Festus Okoye said that the action of the REC was an usurpation of the powers of the state returning officer and was therefore null, void, and of no effect.
Every electoral process and for every election, the commission appoints collation and returning officers, and we appoint these collation and returning officers in writing. The commission appointed a collation and returning officer for the governorship election in Adamawa State, and that collation and returning officer is presently in Abuja on the directives of the Independent National Electoral Commission. It is only the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission that is constitutionally and legally empowered to make a return, because the chairman of the commission is named in the law as the returning officer for the presidential election. So no individual can make a return relating to the presidential election except the chairman of the commission. Resident electoral commissioners are posted to states to go and man the state offices of the commission. And the powers that resident electoral commissioners exercise are powers delegated to them by the commission and are also answerable to the commission. The commission did not appoint the resident electoral commissioner for Adamawa State as the returning officer for the governorship election. So based on what has happened, the commission has made it very clear that whatever action he took relating to the issue of declaration of results and making of returns is null and void. So the commission has summoned all of them to Abuja. The commission will meet as a commission and take a decision on the issues. It's only the returning officer for the governorship election as appointed by the Independent National Electoral Commission that can make a declaration and a return. And he has not made a declaration and has not made a return. The law does not empower the resident electoral commissioner to make a return and make a declaration. And so whatever he did it in his own personal capacity. He was not representing the commission, and the commission has said that whatever he has done is null and void and of no effect whatsoever. And so we are going to go back to Abuja, meet as a commission, and take a decision befitting of our electoral process. So we have suspended collation relating to the Adamawa governorship election, and that is where we are.
Well, there we have Dr. Festus Okoye explaining, at least from the INEC's perspective, what happened in Adamawa State. Dr. Bati.
Okay, after the February 25 and March 18 elections, INEC decided that it will conduct supplementary elections this Saturday, 2 days ago. And those elections were to be conducted in 24 states of the Federation. When we discussed this subject, I think on Friday, we were reviewing the promise by the Inspector General of Police that the police was ready. The other security agencies assured us that they were ready. INEC also said it had learned relevant lessons from the omissions observed on February 25 and also March 18, and that therefore the supplementary elections scheduled for April 15, Saturday, will go smoothly, hitch-free. There will be no technical glitches, we were assured. But what then happened, generally? We saw, of course, that there was no significant improvement. The newspapers reported that violence, voter apathy, still rocked the supplementary elections, as one newspaper, put it during the weekend. And also, persons were killed in places like Kano, also in Kebbi. The EFCC arrested persons trying to compromise the process in Kaduna State and also in Kano. There was ballot box snatching and violence in Imo. There was violence also in places in River State where supplementary elections were held. So in terms of the general performance of both INEC as a body and also the security agencies, I think the performance did not show a capacity to have learned any lessons within the, 1 month space that would seem to have been, afforded or provided or worked upon, that gap. We didn't see how lessons have been learned. That's in the general sense. But the most remarkable, incident of this entire process would seem to be the drama of the year, some say drama of the month, that unfolded in Adamawa State, where the results of the supplementary election in 69 polling units in 20 local governments out of 21 local governments that they have in Adamawa State. The collation, 10 results, 10 local government areas results have been announced as of 9 a.m. Then the collation and returning officers said they will go on break and reconvene at 11 o'clock. But before they came back, it was said that the resident electoral commissioner had announced, using a piece of paper, from what we have seen on television since this process began, I mean, the returning officer will rely on certain forms. In this case, from EC8, maybe A to E, and then read out the figures of the candidates involved before making any announcement. So we were told that this resident electoral commissioner came to the place, reconvened before the announced time, and read from a sheet of paper, handwritten, prepared purportedly by him or whoever his sponsors were, and then declared Aisha Dahiru. That's her name. Binani is like a cognomen, and then declared the candidate of the All Progressives Congress as winner of the election. And this, of course, resulted in great confusion. INEC then found itself declaring that declaration null, void, and of no effect, because, as Festus Okoye has pointed out, the resident electoral commissioner is not a person that is duly empowered by law to announce. And I think INEC is very right in that regard. The Campaign for Democracy and Development, IAGA Africa, and the various NGOs that have condemned this, they are right in that regard. And those who have called for the prosecution of that resident electoral commissioner, I think they are also right. And in fact, the thing to say is that now that he has been summoned to the INEC headquarters, when he gets to the INEC headquarters today, as we have been told, he should be immediately arrested. And it is as follows. The Electoral Act 2022 is very clear in terms of the responsibility of who declares result. If you look at section 64 of that Electoral Act 2022, sub 4, sub 5, it talks about the responsibility of the returning officer to collate and announce results. Section 65, sub 1, says very clearly that the returning officer shall have the final authority to act with regard to, ballot papers, with regard to cancelled papers, and also with regard to results, declaration of results. Section 66 of the same Electoral Act makes it very clear that is the returning officer that can announce results. So, in this regard, what the resident electoral commissioner has done amounts to a violation of the law. Why do I say that he should be arrested? If you go to section 120 of this same Electoral Act, section 120 in part 7 of the Electoral Act 2022 deals with electoral offenses. Part 7 deals with electoral offenses. Section 120, 456, specifically 4, says that if a person knowingly, an official, it says, knowingly declares false results, then that person is liable to imprisonment for 36 months. So that resident electoral commissioner Uduari is looking at a punishment of 36 months imprisonment. In other sections of 120, 122, 123, certain offenses you have the option of fine. But in 124, there's no option of fine. Now, apart from that, his behavior also amounts to conduct that can cause a breach of public peace. Section 249 also frowns at that, because what he did in Adamawa on Saturday caused tension, chaos, anxiety. There could have been a breakdown of law and order. And I think he should be sanctioned for that. And his example shows why we should be more careful in the kind of persons that are nominated as resident electoral commissioners. And maybe they should be subjected to alcohol tests or regular psychiatric tests during election seasons, so that they don't create unnecessary problems in the country. Now, very quickly, that is that about that. Now, the Aisha Dahiru, who went ahead and prepared an acceptance speech, that in itself is also condemnable. Because, at what point did it just occur to her that on the basis of an illegality, she could start celebrating? And also Festus Keyamo, SAN, who has been accused of jumping the gun and celebrating ahead and saying history has been made. Yes, a woman can become governor, but she has to go through the legal process. And we hope that, INEC will, insist on his own rules and ensure also that, due process is returned to, as has been requested for by various stakeholders involved in this matter. It's a shame, one of those low moments in this season.
Well, Dr. Bati, you said it all. I'll just say a few words to that in terms of the fact that This weekend, despite the faith or some optimism and hope based on the assurances, and some people have now said that when you use the word assurance, you should take it with a pinch of salt. And it's quite sad that this has been proven right again, because despite the assurances of INEC and security agencies as to how they would conduct the elections, supplementary elections last Saturday, it was the opposite, almost the opposite of what happened. A total show of shame has been described by a number of people as a naked dance in the marketplace by an institution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The world is watching, and I think that's what's one of the most disheartening parts of this, whereby we are made to look like a joke in the world. Now, this man who announced the results illegally is not a collation officer, is not a newbie, is not a new recruit, is not an NYSC official or NYSC candidate. He is the state resident electoral commissioner. Therefore, we cannot even making an argument for him that perhaps he was unaware of the rules or perhaps what the Constitution provides for who announces the result. He was very well informed. Therefore, it is difficult not to assume that this was a deliberate attempt to circumvent the rule of law in Adamawa State so as to favor a particular party. And what's even more shameful is that the party that he wanted to favor is the ruling party. Therefore, we ask again in terms of the legacy of observation of the rule of law or the respect of the rule of law under this administration. A total show of shame. It should be condemned at every level, and I'm glad that INEC has come out to speak on this. We look forward to what the consequence of his actions would be following the meeting in Abuja.